It's ACT Extra Credit in Grammar Time. If you've mastered all the grammar rules in this course, you may wish to add a few more skills to have the potential of getting almost all of the questions right. The first one, number 1, more comma specifics. We talked about the double comma rule and not having a comma separate a subject and a verb. You should also note that you never have a single comma before a preposition. So if you memorized of, by, for, with, to, on, in, the prepositions, then you will know that you never place a single comma before one of those words. Here's your example. The wind moves my hair as I ride smoothly, comma, along on my padded bike seat. A, no change with that comma. B, smooth, comma, along. C, smoothly along, no commas. D, smooth along, comma. Okay, let's look at this question. First, notice that we must use smoothly due to the Nike rule. I hope you didn't forget that one because we are discussing how I'm writing. Now let's look at the comma situation. We don't put a comma before along, which is a directional preposition. So A is wrong. We don't have our ly in B, and we have the same comma problem in B, so B is wrong. We like C because there's nothing wrong with it. We don't like D because we have a single comma before the preposition on, and because a pause there sounds awful. Now we're going to talk about extra credit rule number 2, modifier problems. Now, we touched on this when we talked about keeping things simple and easy to understand. You should always be on the lookout for sentences that don't make sense, because the words that talk about other words are not super close to the words that they are illustrating. I'm going to give you an example of something that doesn't make a lot of sense. We remember the times that we would sit in the field behind Sally's house atop the rabbit cage. A, no change. B, in the field atop the rabbit cage behind Sally's house. C, atop the rabbit cage in the field behind Sally's house. D, behind Sally's house in the field atop the rabbit cage. Now, if we look at these options, they all kind of muddle together in your mind, but we have to think about whether the sentence makes sense or not literally. All right, let's look at it the way that it is written, no change. We would be sitting in the field behind Sally's house atop the cage. So no, our house cannot be on top of the cage. So A fails. Now let's look at B. In the field atop the rabbit cage. All right, no fields exist atop a rabbit cage. And what about C? We would sit atop the rabbit cage. We could do that, but in the field behind her house. So C looks good. But let's look at D. We would be sitting behind Sally's house in the field, but the field would not be atop the rabbit cage. So the answer has to be C. All right, let's look at sequencing. 3. If you do have time to do sequencing questions, then you're very lucky because these are easy if you can quickly check out all the options. They ask you to place a phrase or a sentence somewhere within a paragraph or somewhere within a passage. Remember, these come down to logic, not grammar. They just take time. Here's your example. Sentence 1, I went to visit my grandmother in Georgia. Sentence 2, Grover must have heard us talking because he started running all over the yard. Sentence 3, he barked like crazy and ran to the car, circling it as if he wanted to go for a ride. Sentence 4, one of my fondest memories of Grover is from the day we took him on that special field trip. Here's your question. The author would like to place the following sentence in this paragraph. Here's the sentence. Grover is my grandmother's huge Labrador retriever. Where should this sentence go? A, before sentence 1. B, before sentence 2. C, before sentence 3. D, before sentence 4. Okay, as a general rule, you will almost never place a sentence before the first sentence of a paragraph. How confused would the ACT test takers be like you if the first sentences of paragraphs were wrong? So the first sentence of each paragraph is typically right. Now let's try it where they offer you to move it. B says in between sentences 1 and 2. And logically, you can't talk about Grover until you tell us his name. So the answer has to be B. Number 4 for extra credit, who versus whom. This is a very easy rule. Next to the word who, I'd like for you to write he, she, it, and they. Remember, these are pronouns that occur as the subject of a sentence. Next to the word whom, I would like for you to write him, them, her. I wish it were herm, but her will have to do. Now notice that all these words end in an M, like the word whom. So if you could substitute a word without the M, then it should be who. If you could substitute a word with the M, then it would be whom. For example, blank took you to the dance. You would say he took me, or she took me, or they. So you would use who. You're going to the dance with blank, him, them, her, so it would be whom. Okay, extra credit rule number 5, ER and EST, or more and most. If you're discussing two things, you can use ER or more, but not both. For example, no one is more sorry than Greg, or no one is sorrier than Greg, but don't say no one is more sorrier than Greg. All right, if you're discussing 3 or more things, then you can use EST or most, but not both. Here's your example. You are the smartest in your family. You are the most intelligent person in your family, but not you are the most smartest person in your family. Extra credit rule number 6, the you verbs. When do you use words like begun or sung? Only when you have a helping word, like had or was. For example, we began to study, we had begun to study. We sang that song many times. We had sung that song many times. Number 7, another extra credit, a big picture question. They often ask you for an effective opening sentence, an effective linking sentence, or an effective lead-in sentence. Sometimes they will ask you for the best effective opening sentence for a paragraph. Now, or the linking sentence or the lead-in sentence. There's a little bit difference between these 3. An effective opening sentence is the main idea of the paragraph. So it's the headline or topic sentence. You should circle this question and come back to it, as you can't get it without reading the whole paragraph. And why read the paragraph twice? You will see good examples on the practice test that you will do after you print it out. An effective linking sentence is one that brings in something from the paragraph before and something from this paragraph, kind of like a link fence. So make sure that you pick the answer that does this. It's like playing Red Rover when you were a kid. You link arms with the kid before you and next to you on the left and next to you on the right. So you got to link your arm with the paragraph before and the paragraph that you're dealing with. Just don't pick the answer that sounds best. Pick the one that does what they asked for you to do. An effective lead-in sentence is where you pay close attention to the next sentence. You need to make sure that the sentence blends well into the next sentence. Here's an example of this one. Sam wanted to go to the game. However, I hated the opposing team. We were cheering like crazy in the stands. All right, the author wants to add a lead-in sentence between sentence 1 and sentence 2. Which answer best accomplishes that goal? A, Sam was such a baby. B, Sam always liked to go to games. C, Sam was a big fan of the opposing team. Or D, we always had fun at games together. When you look at these answers, although all of them are interesting and D works, C is actually the best answer choice to lead into sentence 2. Okay, that is a wrap. You hopefully got this extra credit, and I'm very proud of you for doing it. Thanks. Study hard.